This is Season 4, Episode 10 of my Modular Journey. And today I am very happy to be finally looking into Qubit Electronics Mojave. The Qubit Electronics Mojave Stereo Live Granular Processor came in all in that same batch of stuff from the last couple of episodes, October 26th of 2023. It costs a whopping $399, and like all other Qubit modules so far, they are worth every single penny you spend on these beautiful effects. Mojave is a granular sandstorm, quite the statement from the creator of eurorack modules that is quickly becoming one of my favorite in sound design and effects. At its core, Mojave is a granular processor, and y'all know how much I fell in love with Monsoon all those years ago. There are a few other modules in my collection that simulate granular capabilities, but nothing as amazing as Monsoon. So when it came to picking another FX module, I decided to go with the Mojave to see what it can do. In case you're unfamiliar, granular processors take an incoming audio signal, trap a portion of that signal in a buffer, and then process it by slicing up that audio into grains, the size of which you can usually set with various module parameters. You can blend them together, make them staccato-ish, and even pitch shift the grains for some pretty ethereal soundscapes. I loved Monsoon for this, so let's see what Mojave can do, shall we? The Mojave features, and I'm literally going to be reading from the manual while I go over this, live granular processor and stochastic event generator. Well, that sounds pretty darn exciting. Onboard quantizers for many popular scales. That is this sky mode here. A configurable CV gate output. I think that's what this DUNE is right here. A built-in high-quality MEMS microphone, which you can kind of see right here, and my finger's pointing at it under the struct and dist jacks. Also, internal settings can be configured via the USB drive and the Narwhal web application. And something that is endearing to me personally, Qubit donates a portion of Mojave sales proceeds towards the conservation of the Mojave Desert in California through Joshua Tree National Park Association. How do the kids do that? Anyway, so why did I choose Mojave? There are literally a ton of granular processors out there, but the only other one I had my eye on was Instruo Arbar. Don't even know how to say it. Arbar. And frankly, with the amount of disappointment I've had with Instruo modules and their excessively expensive price tags, I wasn't going to bother with Arbar this time around. Instead, I picked up Data Bender a year previously, and I really enjoyed the Qubit design and even their philosophy towards sound design and effects modules. So when Mojave was introduced in October of 2023, by the way, that's what spawned me to buy all these other modules, was I went to buy Mojave. I picked one up as well as the Nautilus module as a pair, and Nautilus is a thing of beauty, which we'll talk about next. How I plan to use Mojave is, well, if it grains, then that's how I'll use it. But let's take a dive into Mojave and see what noises it can make, and then I'll be able to speak more about how I plan to use it. So as far as this sound demo goes, I've had Mojave for a year, but I've almost never plugged anything into it. I think I plugged something in the first day just to hear what it does, and I had no idea what any of the knobs did, so I didn't get a lot out of it, and I didn't hate it, I just left it sitting there for a year. So preparing for this video, sitting here today, I did read the manual, and we're going to do that right now together, because I want to talk about this module top to bottom, and then play some sounds as we're going. So let's hop over to the manual. So for this sound demo, I'm going to take a melody playing out of plates here, plats. It's just going to be some random notes to start with, and right now we're in full mix to the dry mode, meaning it's only the Platts signal. Here's the very first thing is the mix knob here. The mix blends between dry and wet, as you would imagine. So I'm going to turn on the sound, and I'm going to raise the mix knob. And you can hear little ticks in there. And that's because we have the size is set to almost nothing. So we're going to get to that in just a moment. So there's also a clock input here and a tap tempo button. So you could tap a tempo or clock it from externally if you want. So we could take a clock from Pamela's as well and stick it in here. So now we're clocked with what's going on with the notes that are being generated. There's a rate knob right here, which with a clock plugged in, of course, it becomes a divider or multiplier. Higher it is, the more grains you get. I'm going to have to jump ahead a little bit here just to get the size going so you can hear something. You heard what Platts is doing, and now you hear the grains coming in a little bit different. Because now we're going to talk about distribute and structure here. So the distribute knob here, when it's fully counterclockwise, doesn't do any variation to the rhythms, but as you raise it, it starts adding some extra rhythms, almost like a jitter in a way, I guess. So I think in order to hear that, I probably have to raise the structure a little bit. So the structure has an interesting set of ranges. It has 0% means no random pitch modulation, but between 1 and about 33%, it does some semitone pitches for each grain, and then 33 to 45, it does octaves, and then 45 to 55, it does octave pitches only. And then 55 to 65, it does all notes in a melodic range, it says, selecting based on the sky mode. And then 65 to 100 is all over the place. So I'm going to raise this up to, where am I going to raise this up to? 33? So we're getting all over the place. We're not quantized. And now I'm going to add this distribution. So you can kind of see what distribution is doing. It's just adding more stuff. Let me go to the 65% side, so we're staying a little bit in tune. All right, moving along. So now let's talk about the drift knob here. Drift, a little bit further down, will find a spot in the audio buffer, like say it's a 1 second buffer. I don't actually know how long it is, but let's say it's got a buffer. Drift will find a spot in that buffer based on where you set the position. And this is tied directly to the zone position here. So again, it's a long buffer, so where are you looking? And then once you found the place you're looking, where are you pulling something out of? So let's do that. And I know this sounds a little weird right now, but trust me, we're getting there. And now Whirl is a stereo spread option. Now, the two knobs that are probably my favorite on here right now are the size and the gust. So what is gust? Gust is on the right side, above 12 o'clock, is a reverb. And this module just immediately comes to life when you do that. I'm going to have to turn up the volume now, because as all reverbs take your volume away. I'm also going to lower, we're going to talk about size. So the size knob over here adjusts both the length and playback direction of each grain. So that's all those little pieces you hear. So when it's up at 12 o'clock, it's very short. So the size is small. As you increase this, the grains become longer. And they're affected by this window knob down here, which I'll get to in a moment. But it's basically an envelope shape. Now, one of the things I really like about... Let me pull my clock out. One of the things I really like about size is that you can get these really huge, evolving sounds coming out of this. But the other thing about size is you go below 12 o'clock and it is a reverse grain. Which reverse is my favorite effect in modular. Well, actually in sound at all. I just love that sound. Now we talk about speed. So at the center, it's not applying any pitch shift to the notes, but if you turn it down, it does a -2. Like you can turn it all the way down here and do a -2 octaves to the incoming pitches. Well, it sounds like a cello, doesn't it? So then if we turn it up the other way, it's going to do higher sounds, of course, +2 octaves. Based on the original incoming signal. So the window knob here is like an envelope shape over each individual grain that's played back. Throw a picture of what that looks like on the screen right here, but I'm going to cycle through them. There's this, all the way to the left is a shape called hamming, which I'm sure you've seen before. I didn't see it until I messed with Monsoon over there. So hamming, and then there's a ramp up shape, meaning it ramps up, the envelope ramps up and then drops off quick. Then we have a triangle, which is a smooth up and smooth down. And then we have a exponential down ramp in the purple zone here. Let's give it some size so we can hear that. And then, of course, at the far right is the square wave, meaning it's just up and down. There's also a lock button over here, which the lock button and the gate input will lock the current audio buffer in place so it can't move. It doesn't freeze it, it just locks the buffer and lets you continually resample from that buffer. Which is opposed to freeze over here, which freeze literally freezes the buffer. So see, it's playing the same thing over and over again. And that's probably so you can come up here and make some modifications, change things around. That was a little nuts. All right, so two more things here. We have Gen Mode. So there's a Gen Mode button up here that chooses 3 different modes that the generator can be. And one of them is erode, another one is shear, and another one is chisel. And chisel just means you have to hit the generator button before it'll generate something. Otherwise it won't do anything. So it's either hit the button or send a gate signal in up here. So over here we have clock mode, and clock mode is between a free blue mode, which means the clock is just running, there's no quantizing, and that's why you hear all these things kind of jumping all over the place and not really sounding in tempo. And then we can also put it in quantize mode, which is gold, which will now try to quantize the both the gates, or the envelopes, and the notes being played. Sky mode is this button in the center here, and there are 4 sky modes. There's a dawn, a day, a dusk, and a twilight. And what the 4 of those do is the blue sky mode is quantized to a major scale, where the green sky mode is minor scale. So you should be able to hear my notes changing when I do this. So the thing I'm not clear about yet with this is when it says quantized to a major or minor scale, I'm not sure what its idea of a major or minor scale is, because this kind of sounds like I'm dusting my piano keys. So there might be a way to actually set that. All right, let me pause for just a moment here, because if you're following along in the manual with me, which of course you are, there's a lot of stuff in the manual that talks about this Narwhal application, and I think that is all really important to get to understand, because there's a ton of configuration in this Narwhal application that works with this little USB thing right here, this little guy. So this little USB drive, you stick that in your computer, you go to the Narwhal app, and you can configure a bunch of stuff for these qubit modules like Mojave and Nautilus. And then when you plug them in, it has new configurations. It's pretty amazing. So back to the noise, what I was trying to say earlier is I'm not hearing an actual major scale or a minor scale. There's a lot of other excess stuff in there. And then the next mode is called gold. And this is a chromatic scale. And then the last mode is an unquantized mode. So cover your ears if you're sensitive to microtonal pitches. This can actually be a lot of fun if you're doing nightmare music. Just to show you once again, this is our incoming raw audio. It's just this. And Mojave is turning that into this, which is beautiful. Okay. One of the last things, I guess, to really talk about is this. There is a DUNE output here, and this is, of course, the configurable CV gate generator. So you could use this module to send a gate out, or gate or trigger to, or CV, I guess, to another module. Like, say, for instance, an envelope generator. Maybe you want this to have an envelope shape to it, or open a VCA, close a VCA. So you could do it. You could do it with this here. And then the last thing is this microphone right here. So the microphone is something you could use to speak into or tap or do whatever or pick up noises, I guess. But check out the manual. It does talk about how to use this microphone right here to put sounds from the world into your mix. Oh, there's one thing I forgot to cover, and that is this Gust knob up here. I've only been showing off the reverb side. I didn't show what the negative side does, and that is a feedback generator. So it's basically feeding back all the grains into themselves, just like any other feedback would do. And you can get it to make a whole bunch of noise. So with the feedback turned all the way down, and the size set kind of small, and then start playing with the envelopes here, you start getting all these really wacky dropout audios. And this is the thing I really find that Qubit does well, is this audio manipulation like this. It's fascinating. I mean, this is literally a module you just have to play with. I just kind of love it. And this is 2 for 2 so far, Qubit. Great job. Absolutely love Data Bender. Absolutely love Mojave. I kind of know I already love Nautilus because I did an hour-long video on it already last year. So that's it for episode 10 and the Qubit Electronics Mojave Stereo Live Granular Processor. Coming up next will be an official video about the Qubit Nautilus module, so stay tuned for that.